So today we're going to be doing a review on QuickBooks Online. We're going to talk about some of the pros and the cons after I've been using the service for about 2 years now. Now, we own our small businesses and I love using QuickBooks, so I want to talk to you about some of these pros and cons. Now, if you're going to be interested in trying out QuickBooks Online, I'll have a link for you in the show notes down below. It does help support us out, but it does give you a nice little sign-up bonus so you can get started at a smaller price point. Now, speaking of price points, this is actually one of the pros. Now, I know for a lot of people, price is a big factor, and for what you actually get with QuickBooks Online, I think it is honestly a great price. It might seem overpriced, but all the little features here and there that come with the service is honestly a great price point, and the online functionality is great because I can utilize it anywhere I'm at. I can quickly sign in and have access to my QuickBooks Online. Now, of course, some of the cons when it comes to utilizing this service is there are small learning curves across the board. Whether it is your first time using an accounting software or you've used other accounting software before, having this service is going to be a little bit of a learning curve, but just like everything else, once you kind of get your hands in it and start utilizing it, it'll be much easier to go through and it won't be a big problem afterwards. So one of the great pros when it comes to utilizing QuickBooks Online is the fact that you can connect all your banks into the service, and it makes your job way easier because you don't have to sit there and manually enter information or download any files and upload them again. Everything is just automatically connected, and this makes your job easier to go through all your expenses and your income coming in and categorize them as you need. Now, speaking of having everything categorized, if you have a tax accountant or an actual booking accountant, you can actually connect them together into this online account to make things easier when it comes to working with your bookkeeper or with actually working with your tax accountant as well. So they have access to these things. And the other really great thing about this is a lot of tax accountants and bookkeepers actually know how to utilize QuickBooks Online because it is one of the biggest ones out there. So there's not a big learning curve on their end to how this actually works. So another great pro on this is the fact that not only is this available on desktop like we talked about, but there is also an app available for you. So if you wanted to be plugging in information as you go or updating your expenses, you can do that through the app. And that's a really cool feature because you also have the ability to upload receipts onto the app. Now, this is actually a pro and a con because it's a pro to be able to upload your receipts and have your photos saved online. The con is if you actually upload your receipts, sometimes it doesn't gather all the information, so you have to sit there and manually plug in a lot of pieces of content. That can get a little tedious at times as well. So pros and cons on this end, of course. Now, another con when it comes to utilizing the service is that you had to have multiple accounts for multiple businesses. I actually have 2 small businesses that we have, so unfortunately having to utilize 2 different accounts entirely, obviously it means that we have to pay twice as much as well. It would have been nice if there were discounts for having multiple different businesses all connected into one. If we were able to do that, that would be a great feature. But as of right now, unfortunately, that is a con, having to switch back and forth for online logins as well as paying the full prices on each one when I have 2 services I could have connected together. Now, of course, on QuickBooks Online, the big reason that you utilize it is to, track your expenses. So the really cool thing that they do is you can see your performance on a lot of different scales. So you can see it on, a week's scale, you can see it on a quarter scale, you can see last month, you can see the last year, the current year, and everything up to date. As well as, of course, once you have all your expenses plugged in and all your income plugged in, you can also go through and do your profit and loss statement, which is really important and viable to making sure you're moving forward, as well as your balance sheet to make sure that everything is looking proper on your end as well. Now, a con when utilizing QuickBooks Online, depending on the level of service that you get, it limits you on the amount of users. Now, this might not be a con for every single person, but it can be if you have multiple people needing to look at this information. You might have to share logins or only 1 or 2 people can utilize the service versus having multiple people have access at the same time could help a lot of different small businesses depending on who they are and how they want to function with this online service. Now, another great pro if you are using QuickBooks Online through the app and you have a certain level of subscription, you can actually get your miles tracked for your driving. And this is huge if you're wanting to make sure that you get the most out of your driving, so that way you can get tax deductions on your front end, so that way you don't have to be sitting there manually tracking every single thing. But one of the cons, of course, is partially the fact that there are certain levels of subscription that maybe you are paying for a higher price without needing every single thing in there. So keep in mind what price point you're getting and what service level you are at and what comes with it, because sometimes you might need more and sometimes you might actually not need as much as you're paying for. So keep that in mind, and that can be a con for some people because you might be overpaying on your end. So another great pro is the fact that there are pretty much no updates. Since this is all done online or through your app, there are no real big updates you have to worry about or rebuying the next edition. Everything just comes up as it comes, and you are updated every single time you are logging into QuickBooks Online. Of course, the biggest downside to that is the fact that if the internet for some reason is out, it'll make it really tough for you to be able to be plugging in your information in comparison to having just a full-on desktop version that you don't have to be technically online for at all times. But personally for me, I love the online version itself. I'm always on the internet, so I never have to worry really about any of that kind of stuff. And in worst case, I have my phone I can log into with my cellular data to be able to plug in information if absolutely needed. Now, as far as giving this service a score, because of course this is from my experience, I would actually give this a 4 out of 5. Now, that's a pretty great score considering that bookkeeping and keeping track of expenses is a really tedious task for a lot of small business owners. And for me personally, I like it. I think it's great. I've tried other services before, and I think this one kind of takes the cake when it comes to overall, pros versus cons. Like I mentioned earlier, if you do want to sign up and try it out, I'll have a link for you in the show notes down below. Supports the channel, but it also does help you out with a nice little bonus. Now, if you want to keep on learning more when it comes to small business stuff, I actually have a video right over here for payroll service if you want to learn more about that. My name is Dennis, and I will see you in that next video.